In the previous episode. Hello, I'm Sharunas and you're watching Scout of the Past. This is the first day of my journey into the forbidden Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. I won't be traveling alone. In addition to the two Lithuanians, myself and Gytis, two Ukrainian citizens, Kirill and Nikolai, a Russian citizen Veronica, and Vlad, who introduced himself as a citizen of the Luhansk People's Republic, are also participating in the expedition. One of the expedition members, Nikolai, left the team after the first difficult stage of the hike, surrendering to the police. Kirill will be our guide during this trip. To be more precise, not a guide, but a lead. Throughout the entire trip, we will be filming and showing you the secret former military objects in the Chernobyl zone. 750 kilovolts. I have never been under such a power line before. One of our group members can no longer continue the hike. Here, I have reached the middle of the river. TV show Scout of the Past. After crossing the river, we walked about 10 kilometers and reach a road, which is one of the busiest in the entire zone. We need to cross this road, and it is one of the most dangerous parts of our journey. They are already signaling for me to speak quietly because a police patrol car might be on the road. It would be very unfortunate to have to turn back after walking almost 30 kilometers, especially without even reaching the intermediate destination of our trip. Kirill is going first to scout. We are lagging a bit behind him. Kirill is signaling that we can go. We need to hurry and hide behind the trees. The acacias provide good cover. Alright, it seems this stage has been successfully completed. We continue our journey. We crossed the asphalt road and we can already see one of our travel destinations, the Duga to radio location system. December 11th, 1978, a front-page article in the Daily Mail newspaper appears about a mysterious radio signal from the territory of the Soviet Union. The signal is so powerful that it not only blocks radio communications, interferes with television and radio broadcasts, but is even heard in landline telephones in the United States. The signal was heard all over the planet. Experts determined that the signal was coming from the territory of the Soviet Union. Due to its characteristic tapping sound, the signal was nicknamed the Russian Woodpecker.
Since the transmitters were quite primitive, although powerful, the incoming information on ultra-short waves had a 50 hertz mains hum. And everyone at that time was wondering where it came from. They thought it was the northern lights, the so-called aurora, that it was an effect of that.
The world speculates that it might be a psychotropic weapon for subconscious control, a new Soviet weapon, but no one knows the truth.
Though the official Defense Department explanation of the Woodpecker is that it is an over-the-horizon radar designed to track U.S. missile launches, some scientists suspect that the Woodpecker is designed to interfere with human brain function.
The signal range within which the Woodpecker operates is that which has been reported by many investigators to produce a tranquilizing effect upon animals.
The Soviet Union, without a doubt, denied everything at the time. Only much later, in 1988, did foreign experts determine that it was a 10 million watt terrestrial ionospheric radar designed to protect the territory of the Soviet Union from ballistic missiles. It was sensitive enough to have recorded the disaster of the U.S. Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986, less than a minute after the explosion from a distance of 9,000 kilometers. This is all that foreign experts were allowed to find out. In 1946, constructor Kabanov proposed an effective system for long-range air surveillance up to 3,000 kilometers. In 1949, the first model of the locator system was assembled, which successfully detected rockets launching from the Baikonur Cosmodrome 2,500 kilometers away. The system's purpose was to detect missiles launched from the US as early as possible so that the missile bases located in the west of the Soviet Union in the Baltics could prepare for a retaliatory strike. The Duga system consisted of two elements. One element is the transmitters, located about 50 kilometers from the city of Chernobyl in a town called Liubech. The transmitters received the codename Liubech I. The receivers are these two antennas. One of them is 100 meters high and 300 meters long. The second antenna is 500 meters long and 150 meters high. It is a gigantic structure. The total length of both antennas is almost 1 kilometer.
In the Soviet Union, powerful transmitters were used for military purposes, and experiments were conducted to additionally ionize the ionosphere, creating zones of increased conductivity within it, and from these zones of increased conductivity, to reflect ultra-short waves, that is, metric and decimetric waves, on which television channels are broadcast.
We have about 2 or 3 kilometers left to walk to the antenna. The Duga antennas were launched in 1971. Their purpose was over-the-horizon tracking. The transmitter of this radio tracking system from the town of Liubech would send an electromagnetic signal into the ionosphere. The receiver, located here, would receive that signal and, based on the signal's deflections, determine whether a nuclear missile had been launched in the area where the signal passed. When a ballistic missile is launched, the plasma in the rocket's engine disrupts the layers of the ionosphere, and the disrupted layers return a slightly distorted radio signal. Based on this, it was determined whether the Americans had launched a missile. Next to the receiver, there's a separate small town, which is the so-called Krug system. It is an antenna complex designed for tuning and aligning the large antennas. The alignment complex was a circular area 300 meters in diameter, in which 10-meter-high antennas were arranged in a circle. It's true that the antennas have now been cut down and have ended up in scrap metal collection points, but the building and the control room remain. Also, according to my information, a fire truck used in the accident cleanup should still be standing in the yard. The signal from this radio system was so powerful that local residents could hear the transmitted signal simply by sticking an iron rod into a watermelon. This internet video shows how a powerful radio signal affects the environment. A simple fluorescent lamp brought near the high-power radio transmitter antenna can simply burn out while playing music. There are also legends that local residents living near this antenna did not need electricity at all. It was enough for them to connect wires to the metal fence to meet their needs. The first series of signals began broadcasting on July 4, 1976. In 1981, the government of the Soviet Union adopted Decision Number 5 and 32 to modernize the system. This was necessary because the effectiveness of the current system around the polar region of the Soviet Union was insufficient. In addition, there was a desire to ensure control of the ionosphere over the Australian continent to protect against a possible long-range missile attack from that area. In December 1982, the project leader, Franz Alexandrovich Kuzminsky, assembled a commission that worked non-stop for 12 hours, and a modernization plan was presented. The results of the polar program's calculations showed that efficiency could be increased by up to 50%. Behind me is one of the greatest technical marvels of the former Soviet Union and one of its biggest secrets. I've put on my gloves. I'm going to climb to the top of this monster to film and show you what it all looks like from above. From the top, you can see Prypiat. From the top, you can see the Chernobyl power plant. So keep your fingers crossed for me and you'll see it soon. Coming up next. Finally, we have reached the radio systems adjustment module Krug. We'll wait for darkness to continue our journey, because from here to Prypiat we have about 6 or 7 kilometers of walking on an asphalt road that is in use. Scout of the past. I almost climbed to the very top. There's one platform left. The wind up here is very sharp. The whole structure is shaking and moving. The unsecured parts of the structure are rattling. The views that open up are truly impressive. Here you can see the sunset. On that side behind me is the Chernobyl power plant. I'll rest for a moment and then climb the last steps to the very top. That's it. The task is completed. The goal I set has been achieved. I am on top of the Duga 2 radar antenna, 150 meters high. We finally climbed down from the Duga 2 antennas. We gathered our things, rested a bit. Now we're taking the road leading towards the Duga 2 satellite, which is the Krug tuning module of the radar system. We should find water at Krug, refill our water supplies, and spend the night on the roof of the Krug building. It should be safe enough there. True, the radiation background on the building's roof might be a bit high, but we have no other options as the nearest water source, apart from the Krug 2 system module, is 10 kilometers away, and we don't have a single drop of water left. In 1986, the modernization of the system was finally completed, and the process of state acceptance for works of national importance began. Maximum power tests were being conducted.
Deduced strong interference in the internal electrical systems of the power plant, that is, in the fire and emergency alarm systems, local communications and automation systems. It could have had an impact there. When the controlling electronics receive incorrect signals, perhaps the operators at that time were seeing completely different information than what they were used to seeing. Perhaps they were also conducting an experiment at the time on how to increase the power plant's capacity. And if while increasing the plant's capacity they did not see any malfunction signals, although those malfunctions could have been happening, and the interfering signal that distorted the sensor readings was caused in the power plant by the radar's operation, that scenario is quite possible.
According to maps, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was located between the transmitter and the receiver. On April 26, 1986, the Centralized Control and Diagnostic Registration Program for the technological process in the fourth block, Scala, at 1:23 and 40 seconds, recorded that the senior reactor control engineer pressed the reactor's emergency shutdown button. Why? To add production shutdown, this was done in the sub-series Emergency Protection 5. The suppression of the reaction was supposed to begin by lowering radiation, absorbing graphite rods into the reactor. However, at 1:23 and 49 seconds, Scala recorded an entry, no current 48 volts. This entry deciphers as the power supply to the servo drive clutches of the control and protection system was cut off. This means that the graphite rods controlling the nuclear reaction could no longer be controlled. The report of the commission that investigated the causes of the accident indicates that 3 minutes before the catastrophe, communication was lost between two departments controlling the power plant's operations. The water pump operator, not knowing how many controlled graphite rods were in the reactor, cut off the water supply intended for cooling the reactor. As a result, the reactor overheated and an uncontrolled chain reaction began. Finally, we've reached the Krug radio system correction module. We looked around and it's definitely the same building, as there's supposed to be a fire truck next to it. And now Kyrillas is leading the way to where we should replenish our water supplies. We felt relieved coming into the basement of the Krug module. We see that groundwater has indeed collected here. There is enough water, so we will be able to refill our water supplies. So, true, the water's not fit for consumption. It will still need to be filtered, boiled, and disinfected, but at least we will have water, which is already good. We'll fill up our water supplies, climb onto the roof, and go to sleep, as it's really late. After the accident, the transmitter located near the town of Liubech, 30 kilometers from the contaminated zone, was mothballed. A year later, in 1987, a decision was made to close it. It is believed that when the fourth block of the power plant exploded, the radar system lost its power supply, without which it could not operate. According to official sources, from 1998 to 2005, the antennas in the village of Liubech were dismantled. After the accident, the civilian population of the military town Chernobyl II was evacuated along with all the other residents of the accident zone. The military personnel were housed in supposedly unprotected premises. In July 1986, the facility was decontaminated, but the ventilation system brought in radioactive dust again. Then a chemical decontamination brigade from what was then Leningrad spent 3 days washing the entire town. They removed the topsoil, but the radiation quickly returned. There were plans to build a military town near Slavutich and transport personnel from there, just like to the power plant end. In 1986-1987, the base personnel themselves tried to decontaminate the premises several times, but it was all in vain. After the accident, the radio location station was never put back into operation. On the morning of April 26, 2006, the base commander, Vladimir Musets, ordered the base to be closed. Some of the equipment was taken out and destroyed by the military themselves, while some was collected by so-called stalkers and sold on the black market. It's the morning of the third day of the trip. Today, we have to cover the last 16 kilometers to the epicenter of the zone, the city of Prypiat. The path there goes through a particularly contaminated area, the so-called 10-kilometer boundary. In this territory, the radiation background is tens of times higher than the norm we are used to. Not far from the Duga control system complex, Krug, there is a pig farm, which we have now reached. The pig farm is a very popular place for overnight stays, and stalkers who come here register in a book and leave their messages.
The last one was approximately on the 5th of July, 2015. Someone named Phantom wrote it alone. He wrote some slang. Give a hand to the one who repaired it. It's better to just quit this ungrateful task. Phantom.
While Kirilash fills in the visitor's log, I'll go have a look inside the pig farm at those wonderful overnight spots, which even have a heating boiler. It was written there that the heating boiler should not be lit because it smokes terribly. Ah, here it is. A sleeping place has been prepared. There's a soft bed made, a table, and a small boiler. Today we have already walked 7 kilometers. In total, since the beginning of our expedition, we have walked about 36 or 37 kilometers. We stopped to rest because it's impossible to continue the journey. This is because it's 37 degrees Celsius hot. Our water is running out. We're sweating like pigs. There isn't a single dry spot on my clothes. We have been in the 10-kilometer zone since yesterday. A zone of higher radiation and special security. Now here we are, sitting down to rest on felled trees that are under a high-voltage power line. It's 0.54 microsieverts per hour. That's about 5 times more than our usual radiation background. In about 5 or 6 kilometers, we will reach the evacuated and destroyed village of Kopachi. This is a village that has been bulldozed, destroyed, completely cleaned up, but it still has particularly high radiation. Now, I held the dosimeter closer to the ground and it already shows 0.61. The ground here is radioactive. Closer we are to the ground, the higher the radiation. Now I will ask Jetis what he thinks about our journey today.
The impressions are twofold. Everything is very cool, especially last night's climb on the Duga antenna. But it's so hot today. Oh my God. If you sit down for even a minute, you're immediately swarmed by wasps, hornets, and they start to bite. It's terribly hot. We're drinking water by the bucket. It's a good thing we stopped at a place where there was groundwater, so we recovered a bit there and drank our fill, washed ourselves, but it's a demanding hike.
And now I will ask Veronica to share her thoughts. Veronica, tell us in Lithuanian. Veronica, as I'm addressing you in Lithuanian.
Due to the increased heat, my head isn't thinking very well. We've covered what seems like a short distance, but we're already completely worn out and tired, soaked. Everywhere there are wasps that don't let you rest properly. So the hike is very difficult. My feet are sore. What else is there to say?
Are you going to turn yourself in to the police?
No, of course not. What surrender? I don't have a single police report and I don't plan on getting one.
We have a joke now. We urge each other to turn ourselves in in to the police voluntarily and end our hike, but that would be very shameful, so we'll continue. We are all determined to continue to Prypiat itself. We have arrived at the village of Kopachi. From here I can already see the Chernobyl power plant. I can see the dome over there. Now we will stay in this old trolleybus. We will wait for darkness to continue our journey, because from here to Prypiat, about 6 or 7 kilometers of paved and used road await us. This is a particularly dangerous stretch, so we have to wait for darkness. Upon reaching the village of Kopachi, they sat down for a minute's rest. However, the radiation meter showed a reading 30 times higher than the permissible radiation norm. Therefore, the whole group got into a trolleybus heated by the sun. While waiting for darkness, Gitis decided to walk around the abandoned village.
These small mounds mean that something is buried under them. It could be a house, some kind of farm building or machinery. They are all radioactive. I am standing next to one of these mounds now. The permissible background radiation levels are exceeded by at least 5 times.
And if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment, click subscribe, and be the first to see our latest journeys. And of course, don't forget to support Ukraine. In the next episode, I am on the roof of one of Prypiat's 16-story houses. We came to the most famous place in Prypiat. Scout of the past.